Hello, everyone. I'm Colette Spagnolo, VP of Marketing Analytics globally at DoubleVerify, and I'm based in our global headquarters in New York City. I want to welcome everyone to our 2024 Global Insights webinar for MENA. It is so great to be here today. Our mission at DV is to make digital advertising stronger, safer, and more secure. And transparency and thought leadership are both critical to this mission, which is why we are all here today. Our annual Global Insights report provides advertisers with an in-depth global analysis of the biggest trends shaping our industry, spanning APAC and Europe, MENA, LATAM, and North America, all to help inform digital advertising strategies. And earlier this year, we launched our 8th annual Global Insights report, with our webinar series also running for 4 years. And in our webinar today, you'll get an overview of the reports as we discuss and look at region-specific quality and performance trends that make MENA's digital ecosystems unique. Our focus today is, of course, on the MENA markets. However, given the region's increasing maturity, we've also included benchmark data from the broader EMEA markets to provide insights into how other regions are navigating media quality and verification trends. Today, I'll be taking us through the findings from the report with specific insights from MENA. And after reviewing the findings, I'll open up the discussion with our fireside chat panelists, Hisham, Abed, and Chris. And we'll hear from them all in a bit. And I'm really looking forward to our discussion. But first, let's set the stage and take a deeper look at what our global insights trends are this year. So let's ground ourselves in this. We are all living amongst 4 seismic shifts that have been reshaping the media and advertising industry in recent years and months. First, regulatory changes, privacy and transparency. In an era where data is the new currency, there's a growing emphasis on privacy and transparency in advertising. The shift is, of course, driven by regulatory changes like GDPR in Europe and CCPA in the US. It's also driven by an increased global consumer awareness about how their data is being used. Second, consumer behaviors and digital transformation. Now, this is not a new concept at all, but it's still worth noting. As consumers spend more time on digital platforms, e-commerce is now the norm for shopping. The rise of social media, streaming platforms, podcasts, mobile platforms, and other digital channels popping up almost daily have also expanded avenues for advertising and for reaching consumers. But this also creates fragmentation and challenges with consistent measurement for advertisers. Third, consumer expectations around sustainability and social responsibility. Today's consumers are more conscious about the environment and social issues, and they expect brands to not only talk about sustainability and social responsibility, but also to walk the walk and incorporate those values into their everyday business practices. And last but certainly not least, new tech, AI and automation. These are revolutionizing advertising, and that introduces both challenges and opportunities. We're going to talk a lot more about that shortly. A look at the current DV ecosystem and why we are well poised to analyze these industry-wide trends. We measured 7 trillion media transactions in 2023 globally across platforms, devices, formats, and channels. We have an expansive global measurement footprint that helps contextualize regional insights. And very, very important, we are fully independent, objective, and therefore we provide unbiased measurement and analysis to our customers. Now, this is a transformative time in advertising. The industry is fundamentally rapidly changing, and advertisers have more information to juggle than ever before. And nothing demonstrates this more strongly than the key trends that further cemented themselves over the past year. AI, artificial intelligence, became even more widespread, accelerating this transformation in media and advertising. Made for advertising, or MFA, content increased significantly. Retail media networks have grown, proving that they have specialized inventory with a place in many advertisers' media campaigns. Strong media quality is still the baseline for advertisers to be able to generate performance, but attention has gained much more popularity among media buyers worldwide as well. And last, sustainability measurement showed that higher media quality leads to lower carbon emissions. So let's dig deeper on each of these. And we'll start with AI. Now, AI is more than just a tech trend. It's truly a revolution, reshaping the world and redefining the boundaries of what's possible for us as humans. But for us as marketers, the widespread use of AI introduces both challenges and opportunities. New concerns from deepfakes to increasingly sophisticated fraud schemes are another reality of this AI revolution. As part of this year's report, we surveyed 1,000 marketers globally about these trends. And the survey results displayed on screen represent responses from marketers across EMEA. And our survey showed marketers' concerns about this. Nearly half believe that generative AI negatively impacts media quality. And 46% worry that increasingly sophisticated fraud schemes also negatively impact media quality. And that concern is unfortunately rooted in fact. The DV Fraud Lab has seen fraud schemes grow in the wake of AI. In 2023, we tracked 58% more streaming fraud schemes and variants. But those fraud schemes were not just higher in quantity, they were also more complex, with more than a 250% increase in the average number of variants per scheme. Fraudsters are able to quickly and powerfully spin off more variants to try to avoid fraud detection. And while CTV and audio streaming fraud is much more popular in the press these days, we're not just seeing increase in fraud in these more nascent environments. We also recorded 2 times as many mobile app investigations last year. But we fight fire with fire. The DV Fraud Lab uses AI also to detect and protect advertisers, leading to just a 1.1% invalid traffic rate in 2023 in the broader EMEA region for protected advertisers. On the opportunity side of AI, with the ability to deploy sophisticated optimization strategies at scale, technologies like algorithmic bidding provide huge opportunities for advertisers to protect their media investment and to boost campaign performance. And automated optimizations can drastically reduce annual hours spent on operational workflows. Our survey found that marketers today spend nearly 1/4 of their time manually optimizing media campaigns. That's time that could be better spent on more efficient and effective tasks. And AI powered campaigns do save time, and they also deliver on their own return on investment. Sybid's AI delivers an average return of 400%. Of course, AI can make it easy to produce content at scale quickly. And another trend that we have uncovered is that made for advertising content, or MFA, is on the rise. MFA sites exhibit high ad density. Now, ads frequently refresh, they have a heavy reliance on paid traffic sources. Content is duplicated across many sites. MFAs keep users endlessly scrolling or clicking, and that all leads to a low viewable time. Now, advertisers are aware of this trend, and many say they expect it to negatively impact them. In fact, 42% of EMEA buyers said that an increase in low quality content and MFA sites is a disruptive threat to the digital ecosystem. And at DV, we did see MFA impression volume increase by 19% year over year, which makes understanding the implications and even the definition of MFA sites even more important for marketers. So MFAs are built to be attractive to advertisers. It's in the name, right? They exist to generate revenue. And as an advertiser, if all you're doing is looking at the basic metrics of quality, you might not even realize you're running on them, because MFAs actually perform on par with our authentic ad benchmarks. This is because the sites are built to maximize the bare minimum of ad quality. And that's very apparent once you look at them from a more performance lens. Our report showed that MFA sites underperform the DV authentic attention baseline by 7% for display and 28% for video, primarily because of low exposure, viewable time, share of screen, intensity of the ad experience. However, not all MFAs are created equal, and DV classifies MFAs into low, medium, and high risk tiers to help advertisers avoid only what they want to avoid. And that's just one of several reasons why advertisers are leaning into not only DV quality, but also attention measurement, which has been gaining traction for several years. But in 2023, attention became a key part of many advertisers' media strategies. 42% of EMEA media buyers said that they plan to rely on attention-based metrics this year for most of their media buys. And we're seeing this come to fruition as well, with global attention activation at DV tripling over the past year. In MENA specifically, we see video attention performance shine, and it outperformed video for EMEA overall. Video app performance in particular exceeds the DV authentic attention baseline by more than 90%. But as you can see, there's still room for improvement in in-app display, which is 25 points under our baseline. Given that consumers in MENA continue to turn more and more to mobile, these insights are critical for regional advertisers to understand and to be able to act upon. Because the more you measure attention consistently across the campaigns, the better you can understand and maximize your performance. And when we compare the performance of traditional viewability optimized campaigns with attention optimized campaigns, advertisers actually saw an average 50% increase in upper funnel awareness metrics. High attention ad placements drove an average of 30% higher lift in branding KPIs when compared to low attention placements. And on the lower funnel side, a major telco brand using our attention measurement solution discovered that high engagement ads drove 2.5 times more qualified traffic and sales when compared with low engagement ads. Now, that difference between viewability and performance continues to play out when we talk about retail media networks, or RMNs. Now, RMNs continue to gain popularity globally with their rich consumer data and the ability to reach audiences at the point of purchase, especially as cookie deprecation continues. In addition to attracting high intent audiences, RMNs also generate better brand suitability and fraud rates compared with the DV benchmark. Audience extension also helps to boost the overall viewability on RMNs. And it's important to note that many RMNs leverage pre-bid activation on audience extension buys, which helps to improve their media quality performance. So while RMN viewability overall is 8% lower than our benchmark, that lower performance is actually driven by owned and operated retail inventory, which is in line with expectations. Why? Because unlike traditional ad environments, e-commerce platforms serve as digital marketplaces. Their primary focus is on enhancing the shopping experience and increasing conversions. And viewability optimization often takes a backseat to that. But that's what advertisers expect in this environment. And while viewability is significantly lower in O&O, it's important not to overlook the value of retailer sites and apps. Because even though they generate lower viewability and even exposure, they effectively target shoppers at key decision moments when they are much more likely to engage with ads. In fact, our research showed that engagement is 183% higher on average across retailer-owned and operated inventory when compared with our DV attention baseline. Next, let's talk a little bit about media quality. I won't go into too much detail here, but we have these trends and more detail with market level benchmarks available in our Global Insights reports. As we all know, MENA is its own collection of unique markets, and it can perform quite differently from the performance of, for example, EMEA overall. We particularly see elevated brand suitability and fraud rates in the region, and that impacts the overall authentic viewable rate, despite viewable rates being on par. So while brand safety and suitability rates have generally improved, it's really important to stay vigilant across campaigns as we have a global election season like 2024 underway. In fact, our survey showed that 61% of EMEA media buyers are at least somewhat concerned about navigating political news cycles this year. That's not surprising considering there were major elections in both the UK and the EU. And that concern is not without reason either, unfortunately. Already this year, as we also kick off a turbulent election cycle here in the US, high-risk hate speech and cyberbullying and inflammatory politics and news surged, according to our data. So it's important for brands, agencies, and ad tech companies to work together to make sure that you are protected without limiting scale during election cycles. Now, our authentic ad at DV goes beyond measuring just a single media quality KPI. It actually looks at the rate of ads that are viewable and serve in brand suitable, fraud-free, and NGO environments. And in our research, we did a comparison between an unprotected campaign versus our protected advertisers. Unprotected advertisers inadvertently buy more low quality media, and that generates more campaign waste. DV advertisers are able to reduce that waste through pre and post bid protections, and that helps to increase their return on ad investment. The unprotected campaigns showed significantly lower authentic viewable rates at 59% for display and 53% for video. In other words, more than one third of unprotected ads are wasted on low quality media. Lastly, let's talk about sustainability, which brings up another aspect of media waste, the hidden cost of doing nothing. Digital advertising produces a significant carbon footprint. And to understand the relationship between media quality and sustainability, DV analyzed emissions across all DV and Scope 3 active customers, who produce an average 21% lower carbon dioxide emissions per impression than the Scope 3 global average for the same period. And the average emissions for all DV advertisers, not just those using Scope 3, is still below benchmark. And that shows that there are significant knock-on effects of protecting your media quality to the tune of 13.2 million US dollars that DV advertisers have saved in the social cost of emissions alone, simply by running higher quality media. Okay, now that I've uncovered some of the key highlights from this year's Global Insights Trends reports, I want to open it up to our guests for a lively, hopefully, discussion about how these insights play a part in their worlds. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, I am delighted to welcome to my colleague Hisham, along with some of our top clients in the region. Hisham, let's start with you.
Absolutely. So my name is Hisham. I'm the business director at Double Verify, and I'm quite looking forward to the discussion we'll be having alongside with Chris and Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Colette and the team. This is Abed, the Regional Director of Digital at UM, overseeing the digital product at UM across the MENA region.
Hi, I'm Chris Salome. I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Omnicom Media Group. And this is a topic that's extremely high on our agenda at Omnicom, and really happy to be a part of the discussion with one of our key partners, which is you, Double Verify.
Thank you so much. So let's jump into our discussion. Let's start with quality, media quality. So for DV advertisers globally, there's been a positive shift in global trends across our three core quality indicators: brand suitability, fraud, and viewability. And that improvement, which has been observed for several years in a row now, reflects strong adoption of both pre and post-bid verification strategies by advertisers all across the world. So my opening question is, how important is media quality to your overall strategy? Chris, let's start with you.
I mean, it's the number one thing. It's the when you train to be a doctor, you take something called the Hippocratic Oath, and the first thing you swear on is do no harm. I think it applies to advertising as well. Before you can actually do the job of marketing your clients' products, make sure you're not doing any harm by buying bad quality media. It's if so much effort is wasted, so much effort goes into creating an ad campaign, the hundreds of people, the dozens of different specialities, and sometimes it all goes to waste because you're buying fake ads that are poor quality. There shouldn't be anything else that's more important. If you have poor ad quality, every single hour and minute of effort you put into that campaign just completely goes to waste.
Abed, what about you? How important is media quality to your overall strategy and your clients?
Adding to what Chris has said, media quality is becoming more crucial when it comes to our region, especially with a region we are considering it as an ROI-driven market. Most of the brands in the past 2 to 3 years moved most of their budgets to lower funnel, looking for more acquisition at the cheapest, I would say, cheapest cost per acquisition, be it on mobile, be it on website, a lead, or an actual sales, regardless. And if basically the ad was shown or streamed in a non-brand safe environment or non-brand suitable environment or to an actual bot, definitely I'm not able to deliver in terms of outcome for my clients or for the brands. So definitely all this waste is causing a negative ROI, a negative ROAS by end of the day to the whole brand, to the whole ecosystem. So they created the ad, they spent tons of money on creating these ads, and they served it in the wrong environment. So definitely no outcome out of it. So what's the use of advertisement as a start if I'm not if I'm serving it in the wrong ecosystem?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few points here specifically for the quality indicators. So something I came to know, I would say maybe a few months back, is the World Federation of Advertisers. They said that by 2025, based on current trends, fraud would exceed $50 billion. Ad fraud would exceed $50 billion. Now, here's the thing. It's only second to drugs trade in terms of income source for organized crime. So imagine you're in the middle of it. So to Chris's point, and even Abed, I would say, if you heard the question and the answer wasn't a straight yes, ad quality is important, I would invite all the attendees to reflect on a different question, which would be, what could happen if ad quality is not important to your overall strategy?
It's really important for everyone to reflect on that. And especially in an ROI focused market, I think some of the other effects of brand safety and suitability in particular might fly under the radar, right? And I want to talk a little bit about election seasons because, as I noted earlier, this is a really hot topic. It's so challenging for advertisers to navigate brand safety and suitability in particular during election season. And those violations, when they get through, can have serious consequences. As I noted earlier, more than 60% of media buyers across EMEA as a full region are at least somewhat concerned about navigating political news cycles this year. And as I noted earlier, we do tend to see spikes in things like inflammatory news and hate speech during election news cycles. It's not just here in the US, but that's globally based on research over many years at DV. So with MENA media, often actually placed globally for international brands that are based in the region, how can advertisers maintain brand safety during the 2024 elections without limiting their reach? Chris, I think we want to start with you here.
Yeah, look, this is a really fine balancing act, right? Obviously, the starting point is, do your keyword research. Make sure that you've got, keywords that will flash if you're running against content that you don't want to be against. But it's a really fine balance, right? You can sometimes go too far. So some of the the negative press around blocking inventory is that you then exclude content which is absolutely fine, or you marginalize content that shouldn't have been marginalized. So it's really drawing a fine balance. What I would say, and this applies to how you would use a tool like Double Verify. It's like taking care of a garden. You've got to water it, and you do it every day. Like the processes that we have in place, both from a campaign optimization, campaigns management point of view, means you have to look at the media that you're buying daily, and use Double Verify as a tool to flag up certain issues that might be a concern. And then if you see URLs and content that you don't want to be against, prune them out and remove them. Obviously, you can also use pre-bid as a great first line of defense. The other side of that is if you're you can look at your media buy types. If you're there are different ways you can buy media. You can buy media on the open exchange using an inclusion or exclusion list. If you are going to do that, make sure you've got really solid vetted inclusion list, and you use data from your ad quality partners to make sure that your total universe is somewhat safe. And then you might, if you're really risk averse, move to a much more curated way of buying inventory. So it could be through PG deals, PMP deals, but working with your inventory partners to make sure that they don't send you any of that content at the source.
Abed, on your side, what are you advising your international brands to do to maintain their brand safety and suitability this year?
Honestly speaking, this is not only connected to the elections which we are having this year. It should be a norm. It should be a normal thing, which a normal practice which we do on day-to-day basis. We have seen the increase of the programmatic spends in the region in the past couple of years, and the risk of depending only on the inclusion and exclusion list might cause put you at risk technically of appearing next to, I don't want to call it a non-brand safe content, but probably a non-brand suitable content. The last thing the brands want to be associated with is being next to a content supporting a party versus the other, especially the international brands. But not only international brands, even the local brands. All the local brands in the GC, be it in the UAE or KSA, started to go into an export marketing approach, advertising the countries, their products across all the world. So you don't want really to be associated with such a news or such a brand or such parties. So implementing something like pre-bid solutions becomes more and more crucial. Even if I will go out of the open exchange environment to the PG or the premium environment, still an X website, a news website might be considered as a very top premium website or publisher in the region. So if you don't implement a pre-bid solution or certain whitelisted keywords inclusion or exclusions, I would end up being on certain pages. The normal systems, the DSPs might consider them brand safe, but technically because they're top tier publisher. But technically, I'm not in the right suitable environment which I want my brand to be associated with. And answering your first question, would that limit the reach of the brands? Let's face it. Let me take the UE as an example, or KSA. I have 30 million or 32 million internet penetration in the KSA across social, non-social, premium partners, etc. If I'm adding these exclusions or implementing solutions like the double verify pre-bid or post-bid solution, this doesn't mean at all I'm limiting my reach. I'm still able to hit the 30 or the 30 million people, 32 million people in KSA or the 10 million people in the UAE. However, I'm able to target them in the right environment. Me as a user, I'm on the internet or on my mobile across, let's say, 18 to 20 hours a day, browsing content on a news, on a news website. So you will always be able to hit me in a way or another, be it on app or on mobile site or even on desktop. So if I implement these parameters, this doesn't mean at all I'm limiting my reach. And this is probably a concern for all the CPG brands who would look always at what's my reach and frequency. I need to hit the 70 or 80% reach high frequency. This does not mean anything if you are implementing these parameters. In fact, you are protecting your brand, and eventually you are driving better outcome and results by implementing these small parameters in such environment like the news environment, in elections, or even when we have a political, let's say, confusion or conflicts in the region.
No, it's so important. And it's interesting both of you brought up that these are kind of everyday strategies and things that you should be doing regardless of the political situation in the region that you're buying media in. I wonder if that also kind of carries into MFAs. So, as I noted earlier, we saw that made for advertising sites, MFA sites, have increased by 19% in volume year over year. So, I'm interested to hear from you guys. How much of a concern are MFAs, and how have you mitigated those concerns? Are you using the same strategies? Are there slightly different things that you're telling clients? Because it's different than something like an election season, right? Hisham, let's talk about what you're advising clients on.
Yeah. So whenever we're having such discussions, we usually get three different reactions. So the first one could be, or is, MFAs are a concern and we're fully aware of what they are. The second reaction would be, yes, we do have some concerns about MFAs, but we're not very sure what they are. And the third one is, we don't know what MFAs are. And these type of reactions, they basically dictate the direction of the conversations we have. So one direction is, which would be more focused on education. So what is MFA? what they're not. How do you classify a website? What characteristics does the website have to show to be labeled as an MFA? Are all of them created equal? They're not, as you said, Kola. They're not all created equal. Is MFA fraud? Right. So all of these are very fair questions. And usually when we cover such questions, it's in most cases followed up with, okay, what do we do now? Right. So the more advanced discussion, or I would say the second step in the discussion is action. So what action can we take? And in most cases in life, it is not a binary decision. It's not a yes or no. It's not, yes, we want to be on all MFAs. No, we don't want to be on all MFAs. And this is why there's a third option and a fourth option. But even after you do all of this, all the education pieces, or everything, you need to understand where you fit in all of this as an agency, as a client, as a brand. What's your level of tolerance? How flexible are you to be adjacent to such websites? And then the discussion starts where we can take actions and try to protect you the way that fits your brand.
Chris, what are you hearing from your customers about MFA sites? Are they concerned to your clients, and what are you advising them to help mitigate that?
It's not that we're hearing it from clients. We don't wait to hear from clients. What we like to do, and our job as an agency, is to be ahead of the curve and not wait for a client to bring a topic like that up. Otherwise, why they're paying us our fee? We always like to keep ahead of that curve. Are we having tons of questions from clients about MFA sites? Not that much, but are we doing a lot about it? Yes, we've done a ton. And it's, the label itself, I think Hisham brought up a really, really good point, which is classification. If you just hear made for advertising site, there's a site called Facebook that you go on. That site was made for advertising. Last time I checked, I don't have to pay to use it. So, and there's a spectrum, right? So most content on the internet, unless it's the FT or something behind a paywall, is made for advertising. So if you start from that point, you say, okay, then. So it's obviously not all sites that carry advertising whose primary reason for existing is to make money for the person who owns the site. How do I classify? That's a really tricky problem. That, sometimes it's a case of, there's an old adage, I'm not going to say where it came from, but sometimes you just know it when you see it. But there's a lot more to it than that with MFA. There's a ton of specific metrics that you can look at that will tell you as an ad MFA. For example, on the surface, there are many sites that you go to and think this looks pretty normal, but when you look at the source code on the site, you find that there's a ton of ad stacking going on. So there could be you see one ad, but there's tons of ads loaded behind it. And so again, we work with partners like yourselves to help us with that classification. I think you also must not conflate fraud with MFA. The site itself is created specifically to generate revenue from ads, but the audience might be entirely authentic. I would probably guess that a massive amount of the traffic that goes to MFA sites, and I think there's probably a high correlation, is that yes, there probably is a lot of fraudulent traffic there, but not always. A colleague of mine brought up a point not that long ago, which is Board Panda. Many people classify that as a made for advertising site, but loads of people love going on Board Panda. So is that an MFA site or not? It's a legit business. It's a legit business. So, like almost all things in life, it's a really nuanced answer. I think advice to agencies and buyers out there and to clients is, and it's not an easy solution. It's the hard one, which is sometimes you just have to curate and do tons of hours and hours and hours of site curation. Sounds really, really boring and really tedious, but sometimes that's the best thing you can do. On your open exchange inclusion list, if you're buying one, maybe it might be 1,000 sites. Sometimes you also have to vet them, but obviously you can vet them in a smart way. You can use technology that helps you with that. So yeah, I don't think there's a clear definitive answer on this, simply because of the classification problem. One person's MFA site is another person's Board Panda.
the definition, like Hisham was saying earlier. It
Yeah, yeah.
depends even person to person, right? Even not even advertiser to advertiser.
Yeah, so then rather than calling a site MFA, a better way of saying would be maybe we need a system to say, right, is a site exhibiting 1, 2, 3, and 4? Perhaps you shouldn't be on that site because they're doing ad stacking, the massive ad load, massive ad clutter. I don't, if the content is not particularly that interesting, I'm not going to judge, if it's a real consumer reading it. But I would say, look, go to the site and say, is this a great medium for delivering advertising or my brand message in a way that sticks out? And are my ads being seen and are they gaining attention? If you look at the problem from that angle, then you don't have to think, oh, is it an MFA site or not? You can just say, is this a great app site for delivering ads that are viewed and seen by a real person at high levels of attention against content that's not going to damage my brand?
Right. I think a lot of times our conversations with customers end up in very broad generalization here, but I think a lot of upper funnel and like CPG focused brands, they tend to care a lot more about the brand suitability side of things and how is my brand being perceived by being on this site. And I think lower funnel, we tend to hear more, well, is it a real person on that site? Is that person going to convert? Like I might be really okay with that, right? And in general, right? Again, broad kind of sweeping generalization here, but in general, we do find that lower funnel tends to focus more on the end business metrics, right? And not as much on a really tight brand suitability definition. So it's brand specific, just like everything else in brand suitability. And that's, why we have custom solutions for our clients to help work through this. So let's jump into performance now, because I think we all agree that a sound media plan does require that baseline of quality. But on attention and performance, as I stated earlier, nearly half of media buyers globally are planning to include attention-based metrics on most of their media buys this year. So have you been using attention-based metrics to help improve your clients' media campaigns? What improvements have you seen? What have you learned? I think everyone would love to hear not just from DV on this, but from our esteemed panelists. So Chris, on your side, what are you seeing in terms of attention and outcomes?
Actually, this is a topic dear to both me and Adele's heart because we were both we worked together for quite a long time on the IB Council for Attention, and so this is a topic both me and Adele have been working on together and closely for like 2-3 years now, right, mate? It's been a while. It's a topic that I think hasn't caught on to the degree, or client adoption hasn't been as high as it has been maybe in other markets yet. But I think we're getting to that point now where I think the limitation was on the to a degree on it wasn't necessarily just client education, but it was in the viability and feasibility of the technology partners. So Double Verify you have your own suite of attention technology that's fairly new and nascent, and then you have other technology vendors in the market that use a panel-based measurement. However, they didn't really have robust data for the region. I think versus 1-2 years ago, that's now changed. I think the technology for measuring it is as viable in our region as it is anywhere in the world now. So there's no limitation on technology. And is it important? Yeah, of course it is. And I just want to give a piece of advice. I've heard this far too many times where people say, "Oh, attention, it's a brand thing." It's actually the opposite. So it's equally important that someone sees your ad, regardless of where they happen to be in the consumer funnel of what your brand objectives might be. It's more important that they have high attention, high cumulative seconds on your lower funnel, direct response, rational message that we call performance, because it's exactly that. Brand tends to be showing your logo to someone, has a lean back, kind of slightly more passive viewing experience. But if you're delivering a really rational message, which is an offer, a call to action, that requires a lot of intense cognitive engagement with an individual. You want them to be focusing on that ad and reading it. It's not a nice, fun piece of content in the background or a logo that reinforces memory structures. Attention is important across the funnel, and maybe even more so important for what we call performance marketers. Why? No one knows who your brand is yet, so there's no quick instant recognition. 2, your message is likely to be very product and factual based. And so you need extremely high levels of attention. Big brands, the big brands of the world, the Golden Archers and Pepsi and so forth, their brand is instantly recognizable. They have brand assets that are very, very distinctive. And a lot of the time what they're doing is building penetration, reach and frequency, reminding you they're there. They might not need that much cumulative attention. Anything less than 3 seconds tends to just not register on someone's brain. So is it important? Yes, it absolutely is. And I say 100% please lean into your technology partners and start adopting this, even if it's just a test, and see what happens.
Abid, what about you? Anything to add to that? I know you guys have been working really closely together, so I'm curious if your POV is
And
similar here.
indeed, I would say 2 to 3 challenging years when it comes to attention, starting from the days which we did not know what's the definition of attention. We had at least 5 or 10 different definitions, different methodologies, panel methodologies versus technology methodologies, i.e., such as your methodology, which is a complete automated methodology, versus your other partner, the other technology partners around the world, which depends a lot on panel data. The others, which works on a mix of both. So literally, we did not have an actual definition of attention, and we did not have an actual methodology on how to measure attention. In addition to these points, we cannot look at attention as a media metric, as a quality metric, similar when we look at viewability, for example. There are lots of factors comes into the picture. Let me go back to the days of TV or out of home. If you are passing through Sheikh Zayed Road, there is a massive hoarding on the road, 100 meters. If the creative doesn't say anything, you will not pay attention, which means the location was great, the placement was great, the size was great. However, the creative did not drive that attention. So it's a mix of multiple factors when it comes to attention. And agreeing to what Chris was saying earlier, is attention connected to brand and upper funnel? Definitely no. How can I drive conversion out of an ad if I did not get the user to pay attention to this ad? Not necessarily a video, but also your display ads. So also there is a myth that attention is connected directly with video and upper funnel in the region. And we have heard it from even multinational brands. No, attention is across everything. Attention is on your display. Attention is not my viewability, because I call it viewability on steroid or viewability 3.0. Yes, the ad might be viewable, but that does not mean the user saw it. It's above the fold. However, in a place in the corner, it can't be seen. So in a nutshell, attention becoming more crucial. It's not something to tick the box, for sure. It's not something I just want to do a case study, publish it. I did attention, I measured attention, and that's it. Even if in an ROI-driven market, it's becoming more and more essential to start looking at these placements. Vet all your placements, go through all the site lists you are on, all the placements, even when you are looking at social platforms, which is still considered a black box. Look at which placement is driving more attention. Try to measure it in different ways, like how we used to measure the old days of commercials, like we do our focus groups of 10 people and see the reactions. Start doing this, experiment with different methodologies, and look at the impact. We have done a couple of testing across different clients, be it your telco, your CPG, your airlines or tourism, and we started to see an uplift not only on brand recall and ad recall, but also on very hard metrics such as conversion rates, even quality sessions, converting sessions on the sites on the apps. When I'm optimizing or trying in a way or another to integrate attention metrics within my ecosystem. So yes, do it, guys. Pay more attention to such metrics in 2025 because it's critical. You don't want to waste any dollar in 2025 on placements that will not drive you any outcome at the end of the day.
That's so important. And in an ROI focused region, I think the connection to tangible business outcomes is so key in these conversations, right? This is what customers want at the end of the day. So, Hisham, how are advertisers in the region connecting ad verification efforts, attention to those tangible business outcomes?
Look, so there's a point that I always stress on is that ad verification is the starting point. Okay, it's not the end goal. So you start with verification to understand what you're buying, what you're not buying. It helps you set up benchmarks, goals, and objectives. This is the foundation that you do to be able to then start the business outcome discussions. Something we always do and say at DV is that we measure to drive business outcomes, right? So there's a misconception, especially with early adopters, that, okay, we're doing ad verification and this is where it stops, just verifying. That's the end goal. That's the ultimate goal. We as a brand have onboarded an ad verification partner. No, this is not the goal. This is just the mean to get to your goal. So, and we've seen this, we've seen brands who simply by cleaning up their digital spend, they have seen, to Abed's point, they have seen a surge in quality traffic and quality visits and more engaging on-site interaction just by cleaning, right? We've seen other clients who, through attention, and this is to Chris's point, they've they've implemented attention for both upper and lower funnel activities. So a client we had ran in parallel a BLS study with a third-party provider, and they were able to see improved brand perception by optimizing towards high attention placements. We've seen those who adopted a lower funnel activity, more leads and more conversions and whatnot. Look, the formula is quite simple, okay? It's know what you want to achieve. Okay, it sounds it's like it's a given, but not everyone can answer this question. What do you want to achieve by running digital campaigns? Okay, once you've done that, start measuring to understand where you're at. Set the benchmarks, monitor the data, analyze the data, make sense of it, then start optimizing, and then whenever possible, start linking your business outcomes with these improved metrics that was done through verification.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. And I think we're seeing that globally as well. I don't think that that's just a MENA specific trend, but it's important to make sure that we are talking about the same types of advertisers and we're talking to them appropriately, right? Everything is brand specific, as I said earlier, with brand suitability, and I don't think attention is any different. But we have a little bit less than 10 minutes left, and this discussion in 2024 would not be complete without talking about AI. As I noted earlier, this is really a revolution. It has some really positive potential. We've heard from clients that marketers also see the negatives in terms of impacting media quality. Let's do a quick lightning round looking at the future here of innovation in AI and technology. So how will the additional opportunities that are obviously being opened and unlocked in progress, I feel like, for marketing overall transform the role of marketers in the years to come? Just a light little question to answer in only a minute each. Hisham, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So it's a small anecdote, I would say. I'll keep it brief. I remember around 8 years ago when the programmatic discussion was becoming more mainstream, and at least for the MENA region. And we would meet with media planners and media buyers and salespeople from publishing houses. And they were all worried that programmatic is going to take over their job. They're going to lose their job because of programmatic. That obviously was not the case. It did change and it did transform their job responsibilities, their day-to-day. And people who adapted quick enough were able to keep up with those changes. What I want to say is it used to take hundreds of years for jobs to transform. This is happening at a much quicker pace at the moment. Okay, so it's taken a decade and it's only gonna go faster. Now, having said that, personally, I don't think adoption is gonna match technological advancement, okay, especially when it comes to AI. Things are moving so fast for people to keep adapting to it. But still, if I want to just wrap up with one final point, and this for all marketeers and not just marketeers, salespeople and all. If you don't unlearn and relearn and upskill every few years, you might find yourself lacking behind for your career. And we live in a ruthless economy. Okay. And I'll even take it a step forward further. People in their mid-30s and more, you guys are going to be competing with 22-year-olds and 24-year-olds and 25-year-olds, people who are born into digital. Okay? People who AI isn't something new for them, they're exposed to it. So if you don't find value or you're not able to create your own value within the workspace, this is you're putting yourself at risk. So I don't want to finish it in a doomy type of way, but it is a fact, and it's like it's a call out to everyone, including myself, everyone, that this can happen and is happening to many professionals. I hope others
Having to
have a
see you.
lighter version,
Yeah, maybe
of
we
an
have
answer.
more positive
Yeah.
responses. Have it on your side. What about on the opportunity side? What do you think is going to be interesting for marketers in a different way because of AI?
On a positive note, I would say AI was always there. Let's face it. If we used to call a part of the AI automation, AI was there and it's here to stay. It's here to help us better optimize, better function, be more efficient. But this is not taking our jobs at the end of the day. Um, I want to specifically speak about or touch base on the solution, the AI-powered solutions on digital, be it on optimization, point of view or angle, or even an advertisements products, which are AI solutions. Um, it started like a black box 2 or 3 years ago, and even now we started to be more. It's becoming more genuine. It's becoming more transparent when it comes to how to optimize, where to optimize, when your ads are appearing. So yeah, for the brands who used to think AI is there to remove jobs or more towards a non-transparent, going into non-transparent ecosystem, definitely no. It was there and it's always going to be there. It will help. It's just there to help us to better deliver and have more time, I would say, to bring back the magic to advertising, get more time to us to think back innovatively on how to advertise, enjoy the industry instead of spending more than 80% of our time setting up and optimizing campaigns. Now the AI is taking care of that, so we have more time to be more innovative. So yes, it's there, it was there, and it will always be there. Don't worry about it. And however, make sure you are using the right technology and the right partners to ensure safety, brand safety, and transparency.
Thank you again to our panelists, Hisham, Chris, and Abed, for a great conversation. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your afternoon.